Well, it's finally here. The highly anticipated limited edition Smart Wool and Grateful Dead collection has finally dropped exclusively at smartwool.com.
You may know Smart Wool as the go-to brand for all things merino wool, from socks to base layers. Smart Wool has been keeping people comfortable outside for decades with some of the softest and ethically sourced merino wool out there.
Well, Smart Wool's limited edition collection and collaboration with the Grateful Dead is back by popular demand right in time for the holidays.
From t-shirts and hoodies to beanies and socks, now you can have the next level comfort of Smart Wool with all your favorite iconic Grateful Dead designs. Shop the drop exclusively at smartwool.com and get it before it's gone for good. Gone for good. That's Smartwool, SMARTWOOL.com.
Hello and welcome to the Undermine podcast. I'm Tom Marshall, your host of these proceedings. We are right in the middle of our season at episode 25, a season where we're exploring Phish in the 90s. We're really loving going back, visiting some of these epic shows of the early 90s as we draw closer to our goal, the famous Fall 97 tour. And whether or not Fall 97 is the peak of Phish is, of course, debatable. And we're not really claiming that, but is Fall 97 a peak, a very significant peak? Definitely. And here we are at the Great Went, right on the precipice of Fall 97. And to help me navigate this precipice, the delightful and freshly groomed president of Osiris, my co-host, RJB.
Thank you so much, Tom. Wow, that was quite an intro. All right, so today we're covering our second and last festival of this season. Of course, the Great Went. This was the chapter that closed the summer of 1997. Both of these shows, 8/16 and 8/17, have so many highlights. It'll be hard to fit everything into this episode, but we're going to give it a shot. It's a pretty monumental show, set of shows. And as we learned in the 6/22/94 show, we're not allowed to rank festival sets in overall Phish. So we're going to have to just, leave these aside or rank them differently. But I wanted to tell you, if you're enjoying what we're doing, please consider supporting our new Osiris Premium offering, which you can join for just a few bucks a month. You can get bonus episodes of Undermine and HF Pod, ad-free episodes. And a lot of people have asked, where are the archives of Under the Scales? They're within this premium offering, which again is just a few bucks a month. We're going to have discounts on Osiris merch, meet and greets, AMAs, all kinds of stuff. osirispod.com/premium. Or click on the link in the show notes. So, Tom, who is going to help us go through this epic 2-day situation?
Okay, our guest, RJ, I'm extremely proud to announce, is the renowned artist, Jim Pollock. Jim is responsible for amazing show prints and posters and also drawings that appear on shirts and hats and all kinds of merch. And if you know Phish, you definitely know Jim's art. And it's on the cover of Junta, and it's really everywhere. It's safe to say that Jim Pollock is Phish's primary artist. Although Phish does a great job of utilizing a variety of artists for their famous show posters, Jim's are instantly recognizable and become quite valuable. And Jim likes the old printing press technology. He had a press with him at the Great Went, and the posters he made that weekend are among the most sought after ever by collectors. But rather than have me yammer on about it, I'll bring Jim in from the waiting room to tell you more himself.
Hello.
He appeared. Hi, Jim. How are you?
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us again. And you've been a good friend of the podcasts we've done. In addition to being Phish's most famous poster artist, you're also a huge fan of Phish's live shows. And I got to say, ever since I started seeing shows in the 80s, it was likely I'd see you there too, but even more so now at MSG, you're a fixture. You're like, whenever I'm there, you're as close as you can get to the front on Mike's side. You're always on Mike's side, and you're deeply enjoying the sound spilling from the stage. You like it up close, don't you?
I do. Less smoking. Jenny is a bit allergic to smoke, and people are more focused, and there's less talking and stuff. I don't know. but you end up where you end up. I try to get closer. Yeah, it's mostly talking and stuff and being engaged in the music. It's fun, but I've came back a little during Dick's this year. It was nice being in the middle of the floor, but everyone's there's not much talking at Dick's. People are very engaged.
I did notice that. I was up in the stands of Dick's, and it was razor sharp focus on the music. It really was. It really was.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah, much different than the 90s, I'd say.
Yeah, just like
a lot of chatter. Exactly. Yeah. And live music. Like I'm loving it.
Jim, I got to ask you first. There's all kinds of details about your multicolor printing process and the linoleum block and all the handmade things. And we actually talked to you about this in season 1, episode 7 of Undermine about Junta. But first, can you just give the background to the listeners about how you found Phish or how they found you? What just the brief background there?
Brief background. I showed up at Goddard College the same year Page showed up, and we kind of hung out. We hit it off pretty good. We had a lot of common. We liked a lot of the same music, really, frankly. And he had a great record collection. And then the other guys came to Springfest, which is like this live music thing that Goddard College would put on. And they showed up. And Page was playing with a bunch of bands. And they were very fantastic. And we were just like, geez, you should play with them. And within a month, he was like playing pretty regularly with, Trey, John, Mike, and then the other guitar player. I'm spacing his name right now. Jeff, absolutely.
Holdsworth,
they were playing, within the month, he was playing regularly with them and stuff. And then, I'd carry some equipment and stuff like that. My back came in handy, that type of thing.
Well, so that's, obviously that's 83, 84, 85. Right. So we're fast forwarding a good 10 years to the Great Went.
So, I left Vermont, I was in Chicago, and I'd see them when they toured around the country, and they'd hit Chicago and try to see their shows when they were there. They invited me to the Clifford Ball, and I went up and sold some art and stuff like that. I had some offset stuff made and starting to get into the printmaking process. And then by the next time, which is the Great Went, they invited me. I had acquired a bookbinding press and started doing the linoleum stuff. And that's when I kind of introduced all of that format to people. And up until then, I had done a lot of merchandise, mostly T-shirts, I'd say, in quantity. But there had been art for different types of small, gigs and stuff like that, but nothing major. I had done Rosemont Horizon and a handful of prints, but it kind of started off my linoleum print stuff at Great Went, definitely.
Well, and I do remember. Actually, I have one of your clown prints from the Clifford Ball. You signed it for me.
Oh, right.
I'm very proud of that. That's like my earliest Phish merch, I think, ever that I own.
Right.
And I was smart and framed it. So it stayed intact. But so the Clifford Ball had proven to the world that Phish can put on an amazing experience. And a large part of that experience was the art and the artists and performers and the creativity that pervaded the atmosphere. And you brought prints that you had already made to that fest.
Yeah.
And then how did your setup differ at Clifford Ball from what you did at the Went? Because at the Went, you had a press.
Right. I had a press. The Clifford Ball was more like I had some pre-made stuff that I got at an offset shop. I was working in a Kinko's Copies, and that's almost what I blame for my printmaking. It was like running Xerox machines and going to art school in the daytime. And kind of putting two to two together, but then like went really old school, like printmaking. But yeah, I don't know where that was going. But like, it was like we were in this like little village they always created. I guess Clifford Ball was like the first attempt at it. And like, I felt like Great Went really had a amazing infrastructure and like, they just built on all the things that they had learned from the previous festivals.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, that was like part of it. And like during the day, people wandering around buying stuff and even buying stuff while the show's going and stuff. And it was just kind of, I don't know, like a little city. What was it? The second largest city in Maine.
Yeah, briefly. Yeah, exactly.
And Trey said during the show at some point, second biggest city after Portland, but way cooler than Portland.
That's true.
Jim, the Great Went Robot and the Walking Fish are some of your most like famous works, and these are really rare, and a lot of fans have them, and some really want them. But how did you end up with these, and how did they become collector's items? Like what was that like? Creating
Mother
them.
Nature. It was a rainy weekend. At that time I was printing on water-based inks, which is not a good idea. And like basically not too many of the prints made it out. And so because of that, like they're very coveted. Also they're first. And then like, they've become, and like all of this happened when, I don't know, like eBay comes along, creates secondary markets. It's a weird like trade winds of like very good luck for an artist like me.
Definitely. So, just to bring people who aren't into the poster scene up to speed, the limited edition posters, of course, are pretty valuable. And all your posters are like, you sign them and you number them. So they're all like, they're a number out of say 500 or something. But back then at the Went, you didn't know how many you were going to print. So what was the total number of prints created for the robot and the fish?
It was 125. I was supposed, I was given, I always talk through stuff and like run the numbers. Is it okay if I did this? And like I made 100, I think I made like 100 or 125 of the Great Went robots, of which, somebody early on in the message boards, I forget his name, Terry Weedock, I think. And like he had like somebody had made the list of like a database of like all of the Great Wents.
Did he corner the market?
Just a handful of them. Like, it's like 11 and like 32 and like, and it's like all under 100. And then I sold like, I was like, I'll go home and like, I'll keep people's emails. And then like, I'll be able, and like, I moved like, I don't know, like 20 of them like online. Like back in the old days when they sent me money orders to my post office box and like sent them prints. Like that's really, really old school. It's like, it's a little just before the internet's like got all its bells and whistles.
For the truly nerdy Phish poster collectors, you had said that this was not your first poster. You said I'd seen you do some like scribbled Phish poster bills, just like with pen and ink.
For up in like Burlington. Like, stuff. Yeah. Because like I had moved to Chicago, but was still sending Dionysian like art because they were always like, oh yeah, just send us stuff you're working on.
But you mentioned the Rosemont Horizon as your actual first. Was that before the Went?
That's 95. And like that's not a linoleum, that's a silk screen.
Oh.
But I was kind of learning, I don't know, some of the ins and outs of Photoshop and Quark Express. I think I like laid it out on. And basically, it was actually for the Chicago Reader, and they still hadn't sold it out. And so they actually took out an ad on the back of the Chicago Reader, which was my print. And then they were like, oh, that looks really cool. Let's make a poster of it. And then that was easily done. Because like I said, I started to have connections with like a lot of printers working for Kinko's and stuff. Led me into that world.
Yeah. Well, fast forwarding, I mean, you don't only work for Phish. You do posters for all kinds of people, and people can go to pollockprints.com and check out other stuff Jim's done. But Jim, would you say that every single festival for Phish, you did a poster, a special poster? No, I did. I did one for Magnaball, or for the official poster. I think only Magnaball. For Super Bowl, I did some water wheel cutout car things. Oh, right.
Oh, and then Indio. I did an official for Indio.
And then there was a massive one for Coventry.
And there was a massive one for Coventry. the last Phish show. Right?
The last Phish show. Right.
Yeah, 11,000. I only signed them.
That's
they got
incredible.
Somebody at Dionysia or like dry goods to number
those.
Right.
But still, you signed 11,000 posters.
I did, but why wouldn't you?
Right, exactly.
I'm an artist. I guess it feeds a part of me. Sure, I'll sign it.
Well, I just wanted to ask you, Jim, how much has your process changed? It sounds like your process has changed a lot, but do you have like a really set in stone approach to how you do art and posters when people come to you now, or is it still like case by case, like in terms of the creation and production and all that? It
is different because sometimes I want to do like a linoleum, but there might not be enough time, and so there's definitely like time constraints and stuff like that are related to the process that I'm using. So a silk screen might take shorter and be able to do something. I almost have to anticipate when am I going to do a linoleum, because it's going to take a fair amount of time. So it has changed, but at first I was just doing linoleum, but now I've kind of given myself the ability to work in other mediums and stuff like that.
Before we go off to break, I want to give the YouTube people on video a chance to see number 92.
There it is.
Of 100.
Holy. Yeah. Not in too shabby shape, really.
perfect condition shape of the walking Phish. It's probably one of my proudest Phish's posters that I've been able to obtain.
Yeah, it was pretty rainy, but then it started to clear up, and then things were drying. But the first day, it was kind of touch and go with the drying.
That's amazing. Well, it's time to talk about the music, and we're going to do that right after we return from this quick break.
Have you ever wondered what it would feel like if your investments reflected what matters most to you? At Green Future Wealth Management, the advisors specialize in helping clients manifest their values in their financial lives. Green Future Wealth Management was founded by certified financial planner practitioner and longtime fan Nick Cantrell, named by Forbes as one of the top next-gen wealth advisors in the country. Whether you are just getting started or have complex investing and financial planning needs, visit them on the web at greenfuturewealth.com. You can sign up for the email list or take the Investing Values quiz. When you feel ready, schedule a free virtual consultation. In appreciation for the amazing Phish community and the incredible work being done by fans across the country, Green Future Wealth Management will be donating 10% of asset management proceeds from new Osiris listener clients to Fans for Racial Equity. Just be sure to mention Osiris when booking your appointment. Create your green future. Securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., member FINRA/SIPC. Advisory services offered through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc. Cambridge and Green Future Wealth are not affiliated.
And we're back.
So, okay, let's talk about the music, Jim, and thank you for enlightening us on the art process. We had 6 sets over 2 days, and I mean, there's so much to talk about here. It's hard to get it all into one conversation, but the first day I felt like well, both the whole weekend was just such a celebratory vibe. And, this was really representative of where Phish was going in the fall of 1997. You hear in some of these early songs of the first day, the Wolfmans and a couple others, you hear this kind of like evolution on the 95, 96 sound, but it's not quite where it gets in fall 97, but it's a little dark. It's a little funky, dangerous, but still like, celebratory in a way. And I'm wondering, I know you guys were both there. Just curious, like what the vibe was like there. I know it was hugely, populated area, but was it a celebratory weekend? And do you guys have any memories of the first day in terms of the music?
Yeah, well, the first day, yeah, it was like, I'm looking at my notes, but like, I was noticing that it was like a first for a lot of songs for me. The ones that were debuted in Europe, like, as I said, like I only hit Chicago shows. So like, I don't know, there were a lot of stuff that was the first time was in the second night, but like the first night, I don't know. Character Zero. That was my first Character Zero. And then Loving Cup. I'm like a huge fan of like Exile on Main Street. Paige and I used to play that album a lot. And then like, I think I had only heard it once, but it was like, I was like kind of like knocked out of my whole art selling and like, oh, I need to hear this. Get my head out of the little hut and like listen to the stuff. And that was basically, it was, I was hearing stuff, but then like, sometimes I just had to, I just have to get out of here and like listen to something, because we were in the thick of this little town and stuff like that. And there was, it was easy to get distracted, but yeah, definitely. Yeah. Hearing new songs and then like, oh, wait a second, can you be quiet? Cause like, I'm a fan too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like people, totally got it. And like other people are hearing those songs for the first time as well. There was a lot of debuts for me. Yeah. And Ghost was a debut. Or is that?
Yeah.
That's the first name.
That's Summer. Yeah. I mean, that's Summer. And that was a great version. I mean, really, again, like very funky, but just like really a taste of what Ghost would become.
Right.
There's so much good stuff there. Tom, what was your experience at the Great One? We haven't asked you that yet. So like where were you and what are your memories of this 2-day party?
Memories.
This is kind of like back when in the 90s were a whole different experience than they are now for the band and for me and for backstage access and all that stuff. If I wanted to go on tour with the band, Trey just had to ask the band, hey, do you mind if Tom comes on the bus? And it could be like 3 to 5 nights. And I would just go from concert to concert. So the way that, and now that would never happen. Like, well, first of all,
Marley, right?
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's kind of no backstage now, but secondly, they all have individual buses and like the whole thing it's a whole different scene. But, this was incredible. I drove up with some friends and immediately found Trey. I think this is the day before actually this show, the first show. And Trey took me and my friend Tebow and my friend Scott around on a golf cart. And it was sort of late. He was very excited. He was pumped. He was showing us the grounds and driving us all around at like looking at the art installations. We probably saw Jim setting up for the first day. And we cruised by, and then Trey veered into the camping, and it's very much unlike him, and certainly unlike him today. He stopped the cart and ran to a random person's tent, unzipped it, and put his head in and said, "The show's canceled. Go home." And
always the kidder.
Yeah, always the kidder, and then ran back out and got behind the golf cart steering wheel, but wanted to see what the result of that yelling was. And those people had been asleep, and they were like stumbling out. And I heard the girl say, "Was that Trey?" Imagine somewhere out there are those people that
Terrifying everyone.
yeah, exactly. I want to find those people though. Like I eventually found the person who caught my glasses I threw out from when I did the Proclaimers. You know,
Right.
10 years later, I found that guy. So we should be able to find the person who Trey put his head in at the Great Went into their tent and woke up and said the show is canceled. But no, the music was amazing. The parties were amazing. I had an incredible, incredible time. And yes, positivity and festival atmosphere was in the air 100%. And the music was was just incredible, unbelievable. I mean, we haven't even mentioned the Went Gin yet.
Right. Well, that's
that's the next
yeah,
step.
it's a whole different day.
Daytime sets are always so fun with the festivals. It almost reminds me of when I first saw them, which was outdoor. And like back in Vermont, you'd see a lot of like daytime sets, people playing outside. And you don't see it as much like as they got more popular. It was always in nighttime. And so I always like that. The sun beating down.
Yep. And I was like, it was probably too early for me to make this rule. But if I saw Punch You in the Eye outdoors, I was a happy person. That meant the rest, and it still does for me. It means that the show is going to be great. And so this is set one of the Great Went, Punch You in the Eye. And I remember I was the happiest guy. And then right after that, like you said, Ghost wasn't what, I don't know if that was the actual debut, but it was it was still relatively new and a great song. And it came right after that. Yep.
Pretty amazing. And the cities, the set 3, I mean, it's like this, 6 songs. It's Haley's, Cities, Llama, Lawn Boy, Limb by Limb, Funky Bitch, and a really kind of jammed out Limb by Limb before the ending Funky Bitch where there are fireworks after. And that to me is like, the 5 or 6 song second set is, or not third set in this case.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. I think my highlight of the whole show is probably the cities. Like it's so slow. And on the audience version, you can hear people saying like, I think they're going to play something fast after this. Cause it just feels like it's like, that's how that whole summer was just sort of like, it was slow, but in a really, they carried everyone along,
And then it was Llama. So you got your wish, right?
The Llama. They slowed it down. They really slowed it down for me.
The slow Llama.
Exactly. Jim, the second night, I mean, I think the second night is, one of the most legendary shows ever, mostly because of this second set of Down with Disease, Bathtub Gin. But that whole thing, set 1 has this amazing maze, which is really, really intense. And it has a tweezer that's great. But this Down with Disease, Bathtub Gin, it almost feels like it's celebratory, but almost like emotionally wistful. Like it almost feels to me like they're like a little bit looking back on this year and like not wanting this amazing tour to end. But maybe I'm reading too much into it. But I feel like that Bathtub Gin,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it is to be a musician. But yeah, it's like if you slow it down, can you distill it more, kind of thing? Yeah. Because you don't want to rush through anything.
Yeah, it's so powerful. Do you remember that in person?
In Europe, and like they just seem to be just like nonstop on the road, and then like, I mean the Thus Spoke this Zarathustra also struck the 2001. What
2001? We'll call it.
Yeah.
But like that, like, and then also with like and like, I hadn't seen that too many times. I might have seen it once, but not played as like large as it. And I remember pausing and like, I have to stop selling art and listen to this. And that whole day was like with the banger, Philharmonic.
Oh yeah.
Symphony, and like there was a lot of classical music stuff. And I feel like that was almost like a nod to that stuff that had already been played, and Debussy, and like, I don't know. It's just, I've always considered Trey as like just another, composer in that same regard. Just, using the rock milieu, but like it's more or less a lot of the same I don't know, tricks of the trade of a composer, basically.
That's awesome. You say that. I mean, there were a couple little musical highlights, like the first night. If you stayed up late enough, they kind of DJ'd a disco set.
Yeah, I
and
didn't see that.
Yeah.
I saw the flatbed thing.
Oh, at Clifford Ball.
Oh, that's Clifford Ball. Yeah. No, I didn't see the disco. I was wiped out. Yeah.
I mean, you were working, so you were working and playing. Yeah, we were just playing. So we stayed up for the disco thing, and that was interesting. And as you know, every festival they've tried to do something kind of a little bit outside the lines, which is really cool. Yeah. But like you said, the Bangor, Maine Philharmonic Orchestra playing at least several classical numbers, but it was accompanied by a glider that was like spewing smoke as he was doing incredible stunts above the audience.
Yeah, just amazing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, I just, and then like, how often do you see Philharmonic Orchestra playing in the middle of, I mean, you can go to places, but it's cool to hear them outside.
And it's funny you say that Trey is in your mind, if he was 500 years earlier, he'd be like pals with like Bach or something.
He's our own Paganini here. Traded in the guitar for the
totally.
So that was between the first and second sets, the orchestra.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And then
it was during the day. Yep.
Yeah. Give more stuff, because like the break in between the nighttime and the daytime and stuff like that. Yeah, it was really, I mean, I don't know. It was like really cool to see that. I'd be up for that again.
Yeah,
I love classical
that.
music. I was raised in a kind of classical music kind of family. So, I love that stuff.
When you get taught piano, you don't really have a choice. You learn classical. But I think when you get taught guitar and drums, you learn on rock.
Yeah.
It's
definitely
pretty interesting these days that's what it is. But still, piano, it's like you learn, Chopin, Beethoven,
and
Bach,
you learn to read music.
And you learn to read music. Yeah, but it's interesting how that is. And yet Trey he had that very, very developed classical sense, and he still does.
Yeah. It's just amazing. I mean, to see the development of it, and like, I don't know, at the other end, like we get like very large, we start off with fugues, which are generally short, but then he's broadened it to like, I don't know, like I think of a petrichor as almost like, I think of it as a ballet. I don't know, but like
interesting.
A lot of movements, but like a lot of rhythm changes, meter changes, and stuff like that. Yeah. When I saw him at Bangor, Maine, I was like kind of in the back of the crowd and stuff like that, and there were a bunch of couples all kind of like dancing to petrichor. And like they had like, it was almost like they had danced to it before, and like, I always think of, gosh, it's almost like a ballet. It's like it's a very danceable thing.
Did you see when petrichor was turned into the New Year's?
Yeah, I did.
And there was some dancing in that, of course.
It worked well with David Gallo and his troupe. Absolutely.
That's right. So I was going to ask you again about the music and how pianists kind of start with classical. Your pal Page, when you met him at school at Goddard, was he sort of classically trained, or was he already sort of coloring into the jazz world?
He was trying to learn to read music more. I think he did. I think he like was there to basically kind of, he knew by ear, but like he couldn't sight read. I think he was like, basically he was on a mission. I mean, like unlike some Goddard students, but like, he really, I mean, he was in the hay barn pounding out the piano. You'd hear him all the time, and just like And like, he was really good. I mean, he had great technique and stuff like that. But like, yeah, he taught himself like, you know, the rudimentary things that he needed to do to become like a musician. And like, yeah, good on him. I don't know. I mean, like, I just think it was more spotty, that he was more of a jazz, reading charts and chords and like, and being able to hear and play melodies and stuff like that. But like when you get into the more sophisticated, like, I don't know, harmonies and stuff like that, it's nice to see it all written out and know how to like know all the where the notes are and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Lots of ink has been spent on, and of course, as Phish students ourselves, we know all about Trey's senior thesis at Goddard, being the Gamehenge saga, so to speak, the rock opera. Did Page have a senior project as well?
I forget. I think I had left by then. I had gone to Chicago, and like I had heard, and yeah, I think he was like, it was mostly like recordings, and he was doing some film stuff. So it was like mostly like type of performance projects. Okay. I really think he was like thinking about like making music for films. And he was like, we had some film equipment at school, and we were doing like film and video and stuff. And yeah, it's kind of cool.
It's appropriate because Phish.
I forget exactly what it was.
Phish
but
with
like,
these.
I think he like became really good at sight reading and like, you know, just, you know, teaching himself. And then they had Lois Harris, who was the music teacher there, and she worked with all of those guys, or with Trey and Paige and John. They were all under. She was teaching them stuff, you know, theory and that stuff. They came in from a jazz thing. They could read charts, fake books, and that kind of thing.
Yep. That's interesting. Yeah, I never thought to ask Page ever what his Goddard graduation project was, but maybe being part of Gamehenge might have sufficed, because he was, you know, he did all the keyboards for that. That's really interesting. RJ, my favorite, possibly favorite moment was the world cluing in on Buffalo Bill. Set 3 opener, Buffalo Bill. I remember my friends like slapping me on the back, like, "Oh my God, they played it again." I think it had played once or something, and no one thought they'd ever see it again.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing.
For me too.
That was the first time it had been played since New Year's '94. So been 204 shows, and it's a little bit, you know, it's a little bit jammed out. It's a great version, and that third set. I mean, every set of this, and I don't think, if people listening or watching think that we haven't talked enough about a particular jam and the great went, you're right, because it's just impossible. The third set's great too. The Buffalo Bill. There's a great Son of a Mule, like one of my least favorite Phish songs. There's a really good version. Great Caspian to close. It's just
right.
I mean,
our first Caspian. Look at that.
So you were getting a lot of those songs that had been debuted over the, you know, year or two before,
right,
for the first time.
Yeah, and like
That's
it's
awesome.
always different when you know hear it for the first time, or I don't know. Yeah, like in that case, like I don't think there was a recorded version before. Yeah.
No, definitely not. I do want to say, just, you know, the Bathtub Gin has its own, the Went Gin has its own Facebook group, or multiple. Right. So we have to just, you know, mention that's the, you know, I think there's a Facebook group called The Went Gin Changed My Life, which is, you know,
is that the
totally
first 2.0 jam? Or
I mean, it's, yeah, right. Type 2. Yeah, it goes, I mean, it's so celebratory. It's so powerful. It's so like, I mean, it's positive, but it's also just very driving. Right. It's so moving. I mean, I can't get enough of it. Every time I listen to it, I'm like, I cannot believe that this happened. So
yeah, I mean, that song is like, I mean, yeah, I always wanted, you know, early on, I was like, God, did you really write this? Because like, I could swear I heard that before. Like, from you know, like it's almost like a Austin Powers 1960s kind of,
or a Broadway theme or something.
It's just like, wow. It's because it's like an ear. Yeah, it's an
so good.
earbud. It's like, wow, how did you think that up? Because it seems to be everywhere. Yeah. But like,
so amazing.
They extended it so much, and like, yeah, it just gets better and better with like the expansion of it, and every time they approach it in a newer way. Yeah.
Yep.
It's really amazing. Tom, I guess before we wrap up, this is the last show that we're going to talk about before we get into Fall 97, which is the tour that changed everything, as we've been saying. What do you guys both think about like this ending this? I mentioned at the beginning, I feel like they were not wanting to get off the road. Maybe they're always feeling that, like this festival just feels so celebratory. Like it doesn't feel like they have any, there's no like we're a little tired or anything. It's just full energy for 2 days. And this, they have a little bit of a break before they come back for this fall tour. But I don't know, how do you guys feel like they ended up after this 2-day festival? Like, do you guys remember how it felt after the festival? Was everyone just left like wanting more? I mean, I'm just curious how that felt, because I wasn't there.
I do remember.
They were done, like the Phish production staff. And it was funny, like doing that stuff. Yeah.
No, I remember some festivals, and I don't have to name names necessarily. I'm sure people know what I mean. When the band got off, they were done, like dead. Right. But this one was like, this was still 97, and everyone was smiling, and everyone was full of energy and ready for the next thing. And yeah, I mean, this was a huge effort, and everyone was tired. But it was like tired with an amazing smile, and knowing, walking off knowing that you had crushed it, right? Completely crushed it.
Totally. Yeah. But it takes so much effort.
So much out of everyone.
Especially hanging out with people that were putting the whole thing on. Yeah. And they were like,
they're on 4 days of no sleep, 5 maybe.
4 days of no sleep.
Yeah.
I drove the truck back to Burlington from. I mean, like,
we're lucky to have you still here.
Anyone want to drive who's still awake? I'm like, I got this.
Wow.
Route 2. I'm like, that's quite the road.
I mean, and it's way the hell up there. Jim, I assume that putting on a festival is an insane experience. Like you said, everyone was dead and everyone was exhausted. Does it get easier as people go along, or is it always just like a full on,
I think,
effort?
So much easier. I mean, it's just best practices. They get better at doing it, and they have better people who have done it before. I mean, that was like the second or third one. It was like, it's early on. They're like still getting the number of porta potties right and that type of thing. We're like, it's, I don't know, that's difficult. Like anyone trying to put on stuff like that, it's more power to them, because but yeah, I think in the early ones, people just taking on as much as they can to have the thing happen, and and have it happen. But I mean, I think it's gotten much easier, or like, I don't know, not easy, but like, I don't know, just they've done it before so many times that they know how to do everything. And back then it was kind of new, and like, little crossed fingers, which insurance companies hate.
Can we expect, Jim, to have you at the next Phish festival with a printing press?
Oh, I could do that. Yeah. I don't know. I'll have to ask my shoulder, my arm.
RJ and I requested specifically from you. We would consider it a favor if you do that.
Right. Yeah. I was told they still had that hut somewhere. I'm sure it's long gone.
That's amazing.
Like the hut that they put me in. like disassembled it, and they were like, "Okay, for the next one, we have the hut, the Pollock hut, where you
Wow.
do your printing."
I believe that there was a warehouse.
Oh, is there?
There was a warehouse that had some stuff. Yeah.
They threw away the Magnable sign, so I doubt.
Yeah. They've done some clearing of stuff.
I think so.
Yeah, we were always like, "Yeah, we got your hut for you. You know, next time we have a festival." But I kind of missed some. I missed it, Lemon Wheel, Oswego, Big Cypress, and then I went to Super Bowl, and then went to Magnable. I think Super Bowl I only went a couple days.
I love all the festivals, and look forward to seeing the great Jim Pollock at the next one. And he's going to have his printing press with him. He just promised us.
Yeah.
And RJ, thank you so much. Thank you, Jim Pollock. Reminder to go to Pollock. Yeah, absolutely.
It was nice. It was really fun.
Go to pollockprints.com. That's POLLOCK prints.com to see more of Jim's stunning signature art. Thank you to all listeners, and thanks to the Osiris team. And I want to give a quick shout out to Cash or Trade, the world's only social network where fans buy, sell, and trade tickets at face value. Check them out at cashortrade.org. Remember to review and subscribe wherever you listen or watch. Goodbye, and always please continue to blaze on.
Osiris.